to the. Okay, so behave yourselves. Okay, roll call, seating of alternates. We have no alternates at present. Approval of minutes of special meeting, July 2. Whereby we discussed a letter from the Talmadge Estate in response to our updating them with the timelines. And the letter was okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented, Pete.
Okay, why don't we do that and get it off the table? Okay, was this about the letter that the letter we sent to them and their response? I forget here.
No, it was the item that was discussed at the selectmen's meeting on Monday.
Okay, yeah, all right. All right, any second on the motion?
Pete, I'll wait for a second before I have a question.
Okay. Any second? I'll second then. Kathy?
I was not present at that meeting, but I do have a quick question. It says a draft letter from the WCC to Connecticut Deep. Did you actually vote on the letter, or did you just leave it open? Because there's nothing about a motion there to approve a letter. So I was just wondering about that, because I did receive a letter from you, Pete, afterwards saying that there were changes that had been made and approved. So
I guess we did approve it with a couple of little changes, I believe.
That's my mistake.
I thought we made some suggested changes. I don't remember whether we voted on it or not. The only way we could do would be to check the recording.
I guess
What I
alternatively,
wrote here is WCC approves proposed letter of support.
Sorry, a little bit garbled on the sound there, Marilyn.
There's no motion. I was reading the wrong section. We do not have a motion on that. There was no motion made because it was a draft letter. And then you were sent a copy of it. Kathy, can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
is it
There was
something?
no motion.
Okay, no motion. All right, so Kathy, I sent you a copy back with some suggestions, but apparently it was not approved with those changes.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't have it. I mean, you sent it back in changed form.
Right.
So to me, is that something that we need to wait and review once more before we approve it?
I guess we're gonna have to, because I don't have well, let's see.
If that's okay.
I don't have a copy.
It was a grant letter, so we don't need it until September. So.
Right.
Yeah, it was in an email from Kathy that was sent yesterday.
No, that's a different motion.
Oh, that's a different motion? Okay.
Yeah, the letter that we drafted originally that you discussed, my understanding was that there were some changes made, and Peter did send me the letter back. with
Oh, okay.
Changes made. I guess
Okay.
from his email, I understood it that you approved it with those changes, but perhaps you did not. So
Got it.
we will have, to-
Yeah, the other one is the motion from the commission. Yeah, got it. Sorry.
I may have indicated it was approved with those changes, so if I did, that's my mistake. So in which case, the minutes as presented here are correct in that we just reviewed the draft letter. Any other comments on the minutes of the July 2nd meeting? Okay, then all in favor of approving the minutes of the special meeting minutes of Friday, July 2nd, 2021, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions?
Jane, I wasn't present.
Okay. Okay, then, moving along. Present to speak. We have a couple of guests. We have, I see an Ally LeMay here. Hi. Did you have any comments that you wish to make, or?
No, I have no comments.
Okay, so you're just here listening in
I
on
am.
in what we're up to? making
Yes.
Sure that there's no shenanigans among the trees in Wellington. All right, well, okay, welcome, and glad you're joining us.
Thank you.
And Nora Jones is joining us this evening. She's a frequent walker in Fenton Ruby. She joined us on the work trip back in May when we had that, and helped out significantly there. So feel free anytime to make comments. Either of you guests, we run rather a loose meeting. If you have comments or questions on anything we're doing or saying as we go along, feel free to jump in. Okay,
Thank you for inviting me.
okay, well, you're welcome. Okay, then, finance, treasurer's report and expenditures.
Okay, for the fiscal year that just closed, our regular budget, we spent $675.85, leaving an unexpended balance of $824.15. And the money that was appropriated that was added to our budget for the Talmadge appraisal was $5,000, of which we spent $3,750, leaving a balance there of $1,250 unspent. So overall, of the adjusted budget of $6,500, we spent $4425.85, leaving a total balance of $2,074.15.
Okay. Any questions or discussions on the treasurer's report?
I've got one more. I do have an item to be approved for expenditure out of the current year's budget.
Okay,
That was for hardware and for screws and saw blades for an emergency repair to a bridge at Fenton Ruby Park, submitted by Kathy and Chris. So we need to approve that. I did submit it to Tish for payment yesterday, but it was in the amount of $45.92.
okay. That sounds reasonable.
It certainly does.
And there's some screws left over.
But none of them are loose, right?
Just the ones at our monthly meeting. Okay, any questions or discussion on the expenditure of that $45.92? Anyone want to make a motion on that? So that we approve that expenditure?
If nobody else will, I will. I move that we reimburse Kathy Demers $45.92 for hardware associated with bridge repair at Fenton Ruby.
I'll second.
I knew Bob would like to chime in on something here, so, hi, Bob.
Hi,
Okay, all in favor of approving that expenditure, signify by saying aye. Aye,
hi.
opposed, abstentions. Okay, great. Old business. Salvage property update. All right, number of things are going on there. One of the more recent things is that Kathy Carroll and I went to Board of Finance on Monday night.
Selectmen.
Selectmen.
I'm sorry, the selectmen's meeting. Thank you very much. To ask them to, what? Anyone want to fill in on this? Carol, you want to take this?
Well, we had forwarded to them a request, which I was discussed at their meeting, so it's public now. A request from one of the executors of the Talmadge estate for abatement, a waiver of tax payment. And they did not approve that because of a number of concerns about setting precedent, possible questions about legality, particularly the legality of waiving either interest as well as principal. So they didn't feel they had enough information. But there was some discussion of perhaps putting something in a purchase agreement that would address an adjustment at closing that would regarding the amount of taxes that have been paid. I would try to get to reach the first selectman several times in the last couple of days to get clarification on what their intent was with that. And I have not been successful. I don't know if anybody else has heard from her.
Not been in the office the last 2 days.
Yeah, it's so, you know, it is rather, so there is some urgency in the sense that the taxes are due and payable on August 2nd. And so they're waiting to hear from us what the decision was made, whether that should be addressed directly by the selectmen or whether the first selectman wants one of us who has been in contact with the family to pass that on. But for those of us who were present, I was not aware that any motion was made with regard to the possible provision in the agreement of sale. Is that your impression, Kathy and Pete? There was discussion, but I believe no action taken.
No
No.
action that I heard.
Yeah, and so I don't know whether you want me to continue to pursue it, or maybe somebody different should try, or maybe she has been, there's been a lot going on. I don't know whether I was told that she was in the office this morning, but, and I left a message again, but I don't know if that's the case.
Well,
Carol, maybe-
was there a vote? Did they voted on something?
They voted, I think what they said was that they were unwilling to waive the taxes at this
Right.
time. But there was some discussion, and I had some previous discussion with the first selectman about the possibility of addressing their request through a clause in the agreement of sale that might provide for an adjustment at closing to essentially return the cost of taxes that they had paid in a timely fashion when due.
I
Well-
got the feeling that they just let it hang. They didn't vote on anything,
No.
but they more or less just said, well, it seems logical to put something in the sales agreement. I would think that at this point, Carol, you should probably talk to the tax collector.
Well, the tax collector can't really do anything. She has no power to waive things. When I did meet with Erica last week, or early to talk with her about, it was this week, I don't know, time gets away from me. COVID time has really changed my whole perspective on time. But she had just met with the assessor who had suggested the possibility of addressing the issue through an agreement of sale. So, and we did talk about that as a possibility, but there was, as far as I know, there was no action taken. But somebody needs to let the executor of the estate know, so that the taxes can be paid in a timely way.
Well, I will do that. I will send them a note saying that it's still under discussion. The selectmen did not indicate they were unfavorable to granting some sort of a tax relief in the whole process, correct?
I think the only thing that we can say at this point is that they did not wish to waive the taxes that are currently due. Is that your understand? It was a little bit, I believe I don't know if they had a motion. We really need to
No.
see minutes.
No.
No, there was no motion. There was no
Okay.
motion. All they said that they would be more in favor of adding something into the purchase agreement to allow for assessment of the taxes there.
Yeah, to deal with this issue.
And then I was kind of surprised. They just kind of dropped it like a hot potato and they moved on.
It was merely a discussion then.
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
it might be that they need some legal counsel about it, or they think, there's time to take it up in the purchase and sales agreement to come up with some possible.
Yeah, maybe perhaps we need to look at the recording. I thought they had, I don't know.
All right.
But that's why I was trying to get some clarity on it so that we can get back to the family. So I think, Pete, before you talk to the family, we need to,
The long and the short of it is they need to pay their taxes.
yeah.
So
Long-
I will inform them of that, and that the possibility of a rebate or a tax waiver at some point is still under discussion. Does that sound like it? We'll do it for now.
I think that's reasonable, because
Yes.
otherwise there'll be a penalty if they don't pay on time. And, we haven't come up with the sales agreement yet. So there's a lot of different contingencies that can be put in there, and they're going to have time to review that before they decide if they're going to sign the whole agreement. And the issue of the taxes could be discussed at that time.
Okay, so they were aware that the selectmen were going to be discussing it at Monday night's meeting. So they're probably waiting to see. So I will tell them where it stands at this point.
Okay, sounds good. I just want to make sure that it gets addressed.
Okay. All right, so next, Kathy or Carol on next steps, or what's being worked on at this point?
Well, a couple of other things at the Board of Selectmen meeting, they did vote to go to town meeting to appropriate the $60,000 from the open space fund and the $101,000 from the reserve fund for the purchase. So that's going to be on August 3rd. The town meeting, it will be held in person only. It's not hybrid. So voters will have an opportunity to go and vote on the appropriation for the funds for the purchase. One of the things I'd like to suggest our mission members do is get the word out to people that about town meeting. If you'd like, I can draft a very general letter that just outlines, sends them a copy basically of the town meeting notice, but also gives them an overview of what the Talmadge property is, and why the Conservation Commission does support it. And I can send that out to you if you want, and you can send it along to folks, or just send out, a notice to people, just letting them know about town meeting, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I'm a little bit uneasy about presenting an arguments for it. There might be, I'm not sure if we can do that as a commission, you might do it as an individual, but I think there's a little bit of concern about advocating for a particular position. But it would be very helpful if people could spread the word to people that think they might be sympathetic to or interested in supporting this. Because I was not aware until Monday night that the meeting was going to be in person only. And we're going to make, I will be making, I hope be able to make a brief presentation on the project. We're going to ask Mike D'Amato to enlarge the map, Jackie's map, showing the proposed purchase and which we can use in presenting it.
I would just like to bring up one issue that was brought to my attention at the Historical Society meeting last night. One of the people present there had asked, she wanted to know why they were taking $60,000 and $101,000 out of the general fund. And I had to explain that, no, the $60,000 was coming out of the open space fund. That money had already been set aside through, that was accrued through various things. That money is already in like the kitty and to be used for ramping up for this purchase. So if one person has that question, I'm sure that there's going to be other individuals at the town meeting that are going to be asking the same question. If the property sells for 125,000, why do you need 60,000 and 101,000 from the reserve fund? So that's got to be clarified.
I think
And
I'm pretty good at clarifying the money stuff, Pete. That was, you know, I mean, Bob, I'm prepared to address those.
I'm not
issues.
questioning that, Carol.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that when Kathy's talking about having a letter that people can look at, it would be nice to have that when they walk in and be able to read that before everybody sits down and starts talking amongst themselves, the pros and the cons of why this and why that. That's my point, because it was brought to I was questioned about that last night. If one person has that question, other people are going to have that question. It needs to be clarified in writing so everybody that attends, and the meeting's going to be at the Old Town Hall.
Yeah.
It needs to be a handout so people can look at it. It's got to be, you know, kind of an outline thing explaining what's going on. The $60,000, where it's coming from, what it's used for, and then what the $101,000 is from the reserve fund. It's very important if we want to get this through a public meeting.
So we need a simple expense sheet, expense rundown of the
Yes.
expenses involved with this purchase.
In layman's terms, not in,
Right.
it has to be easily understood by someone who does not do finances except for their own checkbook.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between having a fact sheet that could be available at the meeting and having sending out something to people, advocating for it. So that's my concern, is that we not do anything that could be misconstrued in advance of the meeting by distributing something in writing. It's very important that people talk with get out the vote. But I'm not sure that something in writing that takes a position would be appropriate. I can work on a fact sheet if you'd like me to, but I think I can. I believe we can present it clearly enough what's going on, and the funding issues were all addressed, if you will, through the CIP plan, which included the proposed project, and which was approved by the town. Although I don't know how many people were at the meeting that approved the CIP plan.
Well,
either.
there you go. That's the point I'm trying to make. And why should we back away from the fact that we are endorsing this? We've endorsed it from the beginning. And
Yes,
all
Bob, but
letters, all
endorsing it from
letters,
our passing a motion to endorse it as a conservation commission is one thing. But there are rules about, I think we might, I would prefer that people make contact with people that they know and encourage them and they think would vote favorably on this or not. I mean, people have a right to express their opinions, but I'm concerned that we would need to be very careful about how we handle this so that there can be no questions raised about, presenting factual, a fact sheet is one thing, encouraging people to vote and come out and vote in a certain way is something else. And I don't think we should be doing that in that form, except as individuals making contact with individuals.
Okay, but there's,
My-
yeah, let me grab a shot here. Yeah, Kathy has a letter that we're going to look at or approve tonight. Yes, our support letter that was going to be that's going as just part of the application.
Well, it's for two reasons. One is so we take a formal vote to support the purchase, and that's just for the record, so that when Carol goes and presents in front of town meeting, she can say that the whole commission supports this acquisition for the following reasons. And then she can also discuss the funding sources, or Erica could do that part because she will be present too. They can work out how they're going to present this. I would agree with Carol that, it probably at this stage, it would be better just to go and if you know people that might be interested, just say, hey, it'd be great. The town meeting's going to be on that date. Just wanted to make you aware of it, not to have to necessarily take any type of a stance because, beforehand, so that at the town meeting, I think it's appropriate for the commission to actually say they support it, but perhaps not beforehand when you send an email out to people individually.
And I think that we can
Okay,
not
so
only say that not only does the commission support it, but there was support expressed by the town as a whole in approving the CIP plan, which contained monies to be set aside for this project. And that's, I think, where we would start, because that's an indication of overall town support, because it was voted on. It was a document that was voted on at a public meeting that contained the recommendations for that funding. I can certainly explain to people the source of the funding and how it will be used, that a portion of the money coming, and what important part of that is that a portion of the money that is going to be coming from the open space fund will be going toward the purchase price, as well as the additional costs. And I can explain what the additional costs are expected to be for. I think that's all a presentation. And if we wanted to do a fact sheet that people could pick up on their way in the door, that would be one thing, but I'm really concerned about.
I think the fact sheet should include our letter of support that we're going to be voting on tonight. I agree with maybe not buttonholing people ahead of time and saying, go vote for this, but on a fact sheet, it's going to be a fact that we will have approved that
Right.
statement of support this evening, and there's nothing wrong with putting that on the fact sheet, either first on the fact sheet or at the bottom of the fact sheet after the funding facts are laid out. The funding facts could include, yes, Carol, include the CIP support. That should be elucidated in there at some point, someplace.
The problem is that we really can't discuss this with a quorum of people through email. The only way this can be handled would be, in approving the content of such a fact sheet would be if we had a special meeting to do that, because we would be in violation of FOI if we did it any other way. I guess in other meetings, we have clearly been in support of the project, but we have also made presentations to people who came to a meeting, who know what the item on the call is for in general terms, but we have made very detailed presentations on other purchases on both the Knowlton parcel and the previous Talmadge parcel at a town meeting. At the town meeting, that gives everybody present the opportunity to hear the information and to weigh the information before they vote.
Well, no one's saying we shouldn't do that. Yes, you can do a presentation, but on a fact sheet going in the door, give people something to look at, maybe ask questions about, and having black and white in their hands, what's going on, I think will be helpful, and our letter of support. Bob?
You know, with us saying that we approve this purchase is no different than at the town meeting, the selectman is going to read the call, and it's going to say that these monies were approved by the Board of Finance, and the Board of Selectmen recommend that we move forward with these projects. That's no different than having us say that we're behind this in a sheet.
Right.
I guess I'm concerned about what would go, who's going to prepare a handout? What exactly is the wording going to be? And I guess the whole point of having a meeting is for people to hear information about the issue
And they will.
and vote.
They
And they
will.
will.
Now, actually, Bob, the selectmen, by calling a meeting, are acting on a recommendation from the Board of Finance, which implies approval from the Board of Finance. But their motion was to call a town meeting. That did not necessarily say that the selectmen were advocating, that had taken a position on the issue. There's a
Well,
difference.
When there's town meetings to approve budgets, the selectmen and the Board of Finance and the Board of Education have all taken positions saying they support that. So there's nothing wrong with us as an organization in town saying we support this particular expenditure.
No,
No.
there isn't, Pete, but I guess having previously served as a registrar of voters as well as town treasurer, I do have some background in this kind of stuff. And I really have concerns about how this is handled. And of course it can be, there's no problem with saying that we fully endorse this. That's our job as a conservation commission, to be quite frank. You know, we've pursued this because we feel it's a good thing for the town, and I think that the commission has expressed its support in a number of different ways. That's not a problem, but I am concerned about putting something in writing. I think it can be presented at the meeting.
Well,
No,
we're going to be putting, yeah, Kathy, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, Carol, if you're planning to present and you have an idea of how you're gonna present, it would be basically writing that out in a
I
format.
can do it. I could do something in bullet form as long as you trust me to do it without running it by other people or more than two other people, because I don't want to be in violation of FOI
Right.
either.
I feel that would be reasonable. If you're going to present anyway, you'd have to write yourself out an outline. And I think basically, I'm thinking that's maybe what Bob was suggesting, is just kind of have it in written form prior to the meeting so people can digest it, and then have an opportunity. You're going to basically say the same thing, but then people can ask questions.
If you people are comfortable with giving me the go-ahead to do that, that would be fine.
Well, I move we authorize Carol to compose a bulleted sheet outlining
How about a fact sheet?
a fact sheet outlining the commission's support and the reasons for the support that we've already documented for this acquisition.
I prefer a fact sheet with factual information about the purchase, including the reasons why it's a good idea. All the information about the funding, the CIP approval and the CIP and all of that. But I think that, and we can we can certainly be said that we endorse it, but I don't think we're presenting it's not necessarily as a Conservation Commission presenting this, it's presenting the facts and the reasons why we feel this is a good thing for the town to do. So I prefer to put it in the context of a fact sheet, and we will of course say that the Conservation Commission has voted to endorse this project.
Okay, you could include in there, I think in a letter that the letter of support that Kathy forwarded to us has reasons in there as to why
Yeah,
it's a reasonable project or a desirable thing. So if you could just put those in the fact sheet there somewhere, because those are facts anyway. It doesn't have we're in support, but just say these are the reasons, these are the facts on the funding, and these are the reasons, and leave it at that. And you can go ahead and do the presentation. We had a motion on the floor. Is there a second on that Carol be our representative at the town meeting?
Excuse me, who first?
Pardon?
Who did the first? Who did anybody do
I
the
think
first yet?
Kathy made the motion.
I move that Carol be our representative at the town meeting.
Any second?
does that include the preparation of a fact sheet?
And the preparation of a fact sheet.
I have written Carol, the WCC authorizes Carol Jordan to compose a bulleted fact sheet outlining the WCC support for the acquisition of the Daniel Talmadge. I'll get the name of this from the letter, get the wording right for the Daniel Talmadge parcel. It's in the letter to Open Space we have that was edited so that the wording is exactly the same for the name of the parcel that's in the letter that we referred to earlier that we sent to for you to amend. So that the wording is exactly the same.
Okay.
I prefer that
Well,
that not
when-
include the
Carol,
advocacy by a fact sheet is a fact sheet. I prefer that it not be presented as advocacy from the Conservation Commission, but only information about the possible acquisition and its importance to the town.
Okay, so it'll say it authorizes Carol Jordan to propose a bulleted fact sheet outlining the open space grant application of the Daniel Talmadge parcel. That wording that was in the letter for the open space grant, it will be the same, and it will not say that we support there will not be mention of no WCC supporting it.
Right.
The fact sheet can include such information as the inclusion in the CIP that the PCC has approved it as being consistent with under section 8-24, and that kind of factual information on actions taken by boards and commissions, including ours. But what's important is to explain why this is such an important parcel for the town to acquire. And I've got plenty I've just been reading over a 2-page draft letter to potential writers of letters in support of the grant application, in which Kathy goes into great detail about all the reasons why this is an important thing to do. So I think I could certainly bullet those things. The importance for forestry, again, expansion of forestry, water resources, wildlife habitat, and on and on, all the various things that make this such an important parcel.
Okay, so funding facts and rationale, that's what we're going to have on that.
Yep. And any actions taken by town that have already been taken by town agencies that relate to this acquisition.
That would be great. Okay,
Okay.
so we've got a motion, I think.
Who
Marilyn,
seconded the motion?
pardon?
Who
I think we
seconded?
should clarify the motion personally, so it's short and sweet. I'm going to withdraw my motion and I'm going to propose a new motion, if that's allowed.
Okay, motion
I
was,
would like you to say it slowly so I have a chance to write it down.
That's the reason I'm saying it again, Marilyn.
Okay, thank you.
So, and Carol, please feel free to modify this as well, so you're comfortable with it. I make a motion that we authorize Carol to represent the Conservation Commission at town meeting.
I can't write that fast, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right,
Authorize Carol Jordan to represent WCC
at the August 3rd town meeting related to the Talmadge Estate property acquisition. And to compose a fact sheet outlining the steps taken to
All right. Compose a fact sheet.
which outlines the steps taken
All right. Yeah,
by other boards and commissions,
Uh,
okay, in support of the property acquisition, as well as
just a
the,
moment.
yeah, sorry,
In support of the property acquisition.
sorry, I'm losing my train of thought too. This is why we compose motions ahead of
That's why
time.
motions should be composed beforehand.
I
Thank you.
know.
I didn't know this was going to come up. So sometimes you don't know what's going to come up, Marilyn.
Can you,
Outlining the steps taken by other boards and commissions in support of the property acquisition.
as well as the rationale for why
Hang on,
this
yeah.
property
Or why this property
would be beneficial for the residents of Wellington as open space.
Okay, thank you.
When you have a chance, Marilyn, if you could read it back, please.
Wellington Conservation Commission authorizes Carol Jordan to represent the WCC at the August 3rd town meeting related to the Talmadge Estate property and to compose a fact sheet which contains the steps taken by other boards and commissions in support of the property acquisition, as well as the rationale for why this property would be beneficial to the residents of the town of Wellington as an open space parcel.
Somebody second.
Okay, Carol, that sound all right?
Yeah, I would, can I do this with the proviso that, that I review with the town clerk and the first selectman, whether a handout of this kind would be appropriate, would be legal and appropriate.
Sure, I don't see any problem with that.
Okay,
I mean, I think town
I don't,
meeting, various other town meetings we've been to in the past have had fact sheets handed out at the door that explain budgetary items. And so, I mean,
that's fine.
that's
Okay,
all.
I'll just double check, run it by the town clerk to make sure that this is
No
not a problem.
Okay,
And we will be citing a factual matter in terms of the frontage on Mason Road and the fact that it sits above an aquifer and things of that kind, which are factual material,
What rationale
and,
stuff, yeah,
you know, show what the benefits of this particular piece of property are.
sounds good. Second on the motion somewhere? I'll second. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Um,
No one else. Opposed? Abstain?
I'll abstain.
I'll abstain.
Okay,
Marilyn, I'm sorry, I didn't hear your response.
Aye.
Hi, okay.
okay. All right, so sounds like we have a pass then.
Phew,
Yeah, that
sorry.
didn't take long.
Oh.
Okay, next item on this,
I'd like to make another motion, and this one's the written motion that I sent to everyone in advance to review a draft. And my motion is the Wellington Conservation Commission recommends that the town acquire from the estate of Daniel W. Talmadge 16 plus or minus acres of forested land in southeast Wellington with frontage on Mason Road to be conserved as open space. Acquisition of this property is consistent with the town of Wellington's Plan of Conservation and Development 2018-2028. This parcel is a high priority for open space acquisition and natural resource protection. Such land is contiguous with 586 acres of preserved open space in town and offers multiple resource values by expanding drinking water supply and watershed protection, forest preservation, climate resiliency, wildlife habitat, and opportunities for passive recreation.
I'll second.
Okay, Kathy, can I clarify? There was, what I had did not have the acreage figure. Is that the only change that was from what was sent out yesterday?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. That might have been something that I changed, that I just took the acreage out.
Could
Yeah.
you say
Yeah,
that
so it's
again?
contiguous with
Could you-
586 acres of other preserved open space, and the rest is as you had previously written.
Such land is contiguous with other preserved open space. Is that what you have?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Yes,
So without the, so
hang on-
take
hang
out the
on a minute.
586 acres?
right.
Okay,
so,
Just a
no,
second. The sentence is, this parcel is a high priority for open space acquisition and natural resource protection, period. Such land is contiguous with, that's all I had, other preserved open space. So what's the acreage?
No, we're not putting acreage in it.
So such land is contiguous with,
With
other-
other preserved open space, just as
okay,
written. Yeah,
Got
just as you have written. I'm sorry. I think what happened is the motion that I took with me to Vermont still had the acreage in it.
All right, so the one you sent out is the one we're looking at.
Yes, the only thing that got changed was the 586 acres. I just took that
Oh.
out because it was probably not important in that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion on it? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, good. Thank you for doing that, Kathy.
Thank you.
Okay, what else on deep at this point? Carol and Kathy have been putting together or discussing the background information necessary for the application, so they're grinding that out, and we appreciate their efforts along those lines. Yeah.
The one thing I would say is, the next time we meet, I'll bring forward that revised letter of support from the commission to DEEP that you revised last time but did not vote on, and I'll bring it to our next meeting for a vote.
Okay, that'll be great.
Okay.
Okay, properties management then, Fenton Ruby, Drobny Sanctuary. Okay, we have two things under that. One is the Conwood Management Plan that you should all have gotten copies of, that we were maybe gonna look over tonight. We got time, we can start on that, or if we burnt ourselves out at this point on that, or we want to go through a few pages of that anyway and make some comments on that perhaps.
I think we can get started on that, Peter.
Yep. Okay, I would think so too. So,
So when I looked it over, what stood out to me was the number of area units that they called stands. How many of them did not really require us to do any management in the immediate future. And it looked to me from my, I'm not going to say that I spent hours looking at this. I read through it quickly and then went through it again to look at each stand and see what their requirements were, what they were going to offer. And then I looked at that last page where they had a chart of all of them together. And I thought that stand 2 and stand 9 might be two of the stands that we hone in on and decide at some point whether we want to do the management that they suggested in the report.
well, to be honest, you got farther through the report than I did, because I think our suggestion here was that we just start taking a look at it. So I didn't even get that far along. I think I maybe made a suggestion that we at least we scan the first 25 pages and get a sense of what it's about and where it might be going, which admittedly doesn't have a lot of things to take action on. It's more a summary of things, but if we can just maybe, I had, a few things I noted here just for discussion, but they're not actionable items or things we need to decide on, like exactly what we're going to do in the different stands. So I don't know if anyone else is prepared to go that far along on the report to address those individual things.
I think-
A lot of the beginning part is just boilerplate kind of stuff. But he had, a few interesting things noted. So shows that it looks like he at least went through the park here anyway.
I think the
No, but-
purpose of us going through the the management plan at this point is to get back to Conwood to let them know if we want any specific changes. Rather than discuss, for example, Marilyn, as you were saying, some of the management ideas, those we can discuss later. What we're doing now is just looking at the draft and saying, is there something here that doesn't seem right? Or, for example, are the maps too small? Do we want them presented a different way? Is there some information that we were hoping to get that seems to be missing from the report? So those would be maybe the kinds of things we can focus on as we're reviewing it. And then we can get back to Conwood, and then they'll finalize the draft and get it back to us. And then we can start to use it as a document going forward.
Yeah, I looked through the first, I don't know, 15, 18 pages, and pretty much it's a fact sheet. And it's interesting that, we've had some conversation about what the state is looking for. And I noticed in the first part of the document that they start talking about carbon, and they start talking about climate and things like that.
Resilience.
And the importance of those things as related to forest management. So I think those are the things that, I caught that are different than the previous plan. And, we've talked about that. And once I get further into it, I'm sure that there's other mentions that they'll tie together with those climate change and carbon sequestering and such.
And like Marilyn, I sort of ended up scanning through the entire report just to see the recommendations. But I did note, as Bob did, that they are responding to the emphasis at the state level on climate change and carbon and all of that stuff. So
just
I think
to
it's important.
inform the guests we have at the meeting tonight, we paid a professional forestry outfit to do a detailed management report on the whole Fenton Ruby and Drobny Sanctuary. We had one done too long ago. We're supposed to have updated this sooner when there was one done from 2000, expired in
2011.
2011. And that was a 10-year plan at that point. So we were kind of dragging our feet a little bit and putting us on the back burner, but we finally got around to putting out some bids and having this report done, which came to a cost of, what did we spend for that? $4,500 to have this detailed report, which is now on, what did it come out to? 100 and, I don't have one copy, 100 and something.
26.
100 what?
I think 126 about there.
126 pages.
Yeah.
With a lot of charts, analysis, recommendations on all the different, the park is divided into, the original plan divided into 8 management units. And I think those were retained in this, maybe, yes. They may have spoken about different, stands within those management units, but there's 8 management units that the park was divided into in terms of the habitats and the type of forest, upland, wetlands, that sort of thing so these sections could be dealt with on an individual basis. So what we're doing tonight is we're just beginning, and we just received this last week. We're just beginning our review of that document and to indicate to Conwood, the forestry outfit, whether it's acceptable to us in terms of whether it included the things we expected it to, and made the kind of recommendations we're hoping to get in terms of how to proceed. And as you may or may not know, we did have a silviculture forestry improvement cut done on part of Fenton Ruby. Was it 3 years ago, 4 years ago? Time flies.
4, I think.
Yeah, and part of the forester's report here was his analysis of how that is proceeding in terms of regrowth and new regeneration. And so we'll be looking at those kind of things as to where we might go in the future. Okay, so quick summary, does that cover it, what we're doing in general here for the untutored? Um,
One of the comments I would like to give back to Conwood is, I appreciated that they put some of the smaller maps and photos in the narrative, which makes it a little more interesting as well to read. You don't have to keep flipping back and forth to the appendices to look at maps. But if you, the only problem I have with that though is that some of the maps are rather small. And I don't know if we might request them actually enlarging the maps and also putting a larger copy of the map in the appendices, so it's more useful to us in the future.
All right, okay, if anyone would like a copy of this, I don't know, Nora, if Kathy sent you a copy of that or not, just in FYI, but
I was able to get through a lot of it, but the soil stuff.
yeah, well, yeah.
It was interesting, the suggestions about the invasives and just that turtle, the woodland turtle. So,
So, yeah, he did notice some general concerns. Page 7, he was talking about those crown senescence. The tops of the trees seem to be dying with little regeneration underneath, is what I picked up. He did notice that there are invasives around, and the emerald ash borer had killed off, I guess, some ash trees, but I think somewhere there was the ash trees only make up, his tally was only 1% of the forest, so we may not be in too bad a shape in terms of the emerald ash borer in there. But invasives are always going to be there, and I don't know what we're going to do about that. He did say somewhere along the line that the most effective way to control those is use poison.
Or grub them up, which used to be my preferred, but when I was a little bit younger was my preferred method of dealing with them, but not anymore.
He mentions that, but realistically, we aren't getting out there with our pickaxes and gonna take out acres and acres of barberry. So whether we do spraying or not, or hope nature takes care of it, I guess we still need to discuss. Yeah, it was page 18. He was talking about using herbicides on some of the invasives. Fortunately, it's not all over the place, but there is a fair amount. Yeah, he noticed some beech, the Nectria cancer had killed off or disfigured a lot of the beech trees in there. But again, I don't think the beech is a very high percentage either. Actually, he didn't list the percentage of beech, but I don't know that I've seen a lot of beech through Fenton Ruby anyway. And the hemlock, I don't think we have tons of hemlock in there either, but there was no percentage listed for beech and hemlock. He did, in listing his tree species, he did list the aspen twice. I assume that's probably a mistake. It was in the list there two times. There were a couple of typos here and there that I picked up.
I noticed a couple of those things too, Pete. We're old school, I can tell. You know? We notice these picky little things.
Yeah.
So there are things that can be revised, you know, because this is just the draft. So
Sure.
if you want to take the time to send me a page number, I'll keep track of all this stuff and let him know, you know, when we finish.
Yep.
Okay.
So.
And I'll ask him about, you know, that aspen being twice and no hemlock, no ash listed, although he discusses ash. So find out if maybe ash is supposed to be in there and instead of one of the aspen.
I thought it was interesting that he, under wildlife, pages 20 and 21, that he was noticing that, snags, dead trees, standing dead trees as habitat for all kinds of wildlife, insects, birds, and such are limited. And he suggested that in a future management, we just might create some larger snags by simply girdling some of the live trees.
Yeah,
And then from there, those would be ones that are not very, maybe reached their maximum stage and maybe beginning to die off at the top anyway. But if they were to be girdled and so they die, they would provide a good sized tree, significant habitat for all kinds of anything up from critters to raccoons living in those snags. He did mention that he thought we could improve the aesthetics by clearing back some of the understory along trails, stating that one could appreciate, improve the visibility of some attractive features that may be along trails that are otherwise hidden, that you can argue, well, understory, I guess, that's providing some kind of habitat and cover, but maybe a little nod to aesthetics just along the trail areas would not be out of line in terms of, following that recommendation and clearing some stuff out of the way so people could see other features that might be walls, rocks, or some other things. Boundaries, he made note of boundaries should be cleared, that there were some blazes, boundary was hard to follow in some areas, recommending that we repaint blazes and clear boundaries lines. We had boundaries painted some years ago. Dan Donahue and his outfit did that a few years ago, but they can probably stand some redoing also. So I didn't look too much further in terms of whether he included adequate information about the stands and significant recommendations. And I don't know if anyone else has comments or observations to make at this point.
one thing I forgot to mention in my financial report was that I've submitted a bill for the second payment due on the management plan, which was due upon receipt of the draft. So that has been taken care of as well.
Okay, great, thank you. So do we, I don't know if we want to go any further in discussion on this or agree to tackle another pages, or maybe indeed, as I was remiss in doing, look through the whole thing and get an overall sense of whether it includes what we want before we start tackling, not necessarily for how we're going to approach the recommendations, but just in terms of giving feedback, as Kathy said, to Conwood as to whether it looks acceptable as we were hoped for. So why don't we just put this on the next agenda for the next meeting and try to do a more complete overview, or at least I will, and then maybe we can go from there. Any other suggestions along those lines? Or?
I think it's a work in progress. I looked at some of it. I'll have a little bit more time to peruse the rest of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, so that will be on the agenda probably for another couple of meetings anyway. And if you find little things, as maybe forward them to Kathy, things that, little things, comments maybe about the maps or typos and that sort of thing that look like they could be easily corrected anyway. All right, and then in Fenton Ruby Park, continuing maintenance. That's we've had some fairly significant water-related items, taking out bridges and things like that in the park. And Kathy was on the front lines in there getting that fixed up.
And Bob,
And, right, yeah, and Bob too, I'm sorry, yeah. The blue shirts, I don't know if you had, in the picture you sent, I don't know if you had a blue shirt on too, but Chris and Bob had blue shirts on there. Out there.
We worked as a team.
Placing the bridges. Pardon?
We worked as a team. That's why we had our blue shirts on.
All right, looking good out there, and the bridge looked good too. So anyway, the bridge the bridge did go down the river to the pond, is that right?
The original
Yeah.
one.
The original.
Yeah, how far was that ballpark? I can't picture what,
It's a quarter mile.
You found the missing piece, Bob?
No, Chris did. It's floating out in the pond. I'm looking forward to seeing if the beavers drag it over and have a deck for cookouts later in the summer.
oh, we could probably put some styrofoam floats under it, make a raft out there. Might,
Well, the new bridge is cabled to the tree, so
Yeah.
if it floats up, it'll swing over to the side and it'll still be there. We just have to muscle it back in
Yeah.
position.
well, yeah, that was a smart move. That's good. Yeah, that's a generally a good move if you're building a bridge across a creek. You don't know what's going to happen to it. But so the observation platform there too on the beaver pond. So that's high and dry at this point.
Yeah, you can sit at the picnic table and stand on the fishing pier and cast 20 feet to the water or 30 feet to the water now.
I guess.
So I don't know if DPW, once they get all this damage collateral stuff done, maybe the ground dries out, or we wait till it freezes, get the loader down there and get that repositioned.
Mhm.
I mean, the observation deck is not really in anybody's way. It's not a danger to
No.
anybody. It's just that they won't be able to stand on it next to the pond, for the rest of the summer.
Probably
I
six,
took-
maybe
I
six.
told- Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say maybe 6 Boy Scouts on each side could move it back.
It's
I informed the Boy Scouts that it had moved, so
Oh.
they know.
Okay, good.
I think you'll need 20 Boy Scouts. It's really heavy. It's
It
all
is.
pressure treated.
Yeah. Could put it on rollers, I guess.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, anyway, so Kathy, anything else to say, Bob, on that repair or other item or other bridges in the park that at this point need any attention?
I didn't have a chance to walk around in the rest of the park, maybe in the next couple weeks. See what's going on.
We did
Especially
ask,
that-
there was a couple walking when we were fixing the bridge. They had started at the beginning of Taylor and were coming around to the end where we were. And we asked them if they had seen any other problems on Taylor anyway, and they said no. So, and that the bridge that we did rebuild there, we could certainly raise one of the ends of it up a little higher this fall when people are back. And that would probably make it even more resilient to, high water.
Mhm. Okay,
There's also the Ruby Trail sign at the beginning of the trailhead. The whole sign is gone. I don't know if somebody took it with Mark's, metal trail marker on it. So that whole thing's gone. I don't know where it went. And we need some more trail brochures in the box. I had the Taylor Pond guides, the trail guide for observation. I had those big ones that I put in, but I didn't have any brochures for the park. So maybe, I don't know if Carol, if you have a chance. I know Bob Bittner was supposed to do it. Maybe he's been busy.
well, yeah, I left a file with him, and I can't remember, but I think I left a bunch of them in the drawer in the file cabinet in town office building too.
Okay, I can check on that. I have Bob's telephone number, so I can check with him, and I'll probably be up to at the office.
And I live right here, so I could certainly chip in with that. I
Okay.
could get them from Bob if Bob has them. I live right on his road. So
Okay.
just let me know.
Yeah, Bob was gonna try to get some out there. He can't always get away to do that.
Right.
Do you have a way to, Carol, do you want Nora to do it or?
Yeah, Nora, what's your telephone number?
My cell
Don't put
number
that,
is 8.
probably don't want to put that on a
Oh, never
record.
mind, don't be, yeah, but if you can, well, we'll figure out a way to get that to, if somebody can get that to me, that if
I'll get-
contact
get-
information to me.
I'll
When the
get you-
meeting is over,
Chat?
there is a point where Pete will turn off the recording button and she can give it to you at that time during the meeting. and
Oh, good.
later on.
That would be fine. Thanks. Good
I can't put it
suggestion.
in the chat. Can I put it in the chat? Does the chat get saved?
Nora, I can send it to Carol.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
Yeah, just,
you have my cell.
just so I know how to contact you, Nora.
Okay,
That'd be good.
okay.
And then one other quick item on the park, the chestnut tree that was planted where all the picnic tables are. I'll send you a picture later this week. It's grown, it's like double in size. It's probably about 16 feet high and it actually has some blossoms on it, flower blossoms.
Wow.
The one that's out in the timber harvest area has grown, but not as much. And it did not have any flowers. For them to pollinate, they're going to have to be closer. So I think we're going to have to think about buying some additional trees again and planting them closer to the ones that we planted. They're supposed to be like 30 to 40 feet from each other to be optimal pollination. So something to think about maybe this fall.
Okay, yeah.
We can
They'll-
order them.
They'll just have to be lonely until then.
It was great to see them in flower, one of them in flower
Yeah,
though.
sure, right, yeah. Now, these are hybrid chestnuts, I guess.
Hybrid chestnuts, yeah. They're called Dunstan is the branded name.
Okay. Okay, so there we are in Fenton Ruby, Knowlton Preserve, Talmadge. Anyone been down there to know whether that bridge, the sway back bridge there across the creek survived? Or even the one with the runoff from down, the one that's just, 150 yards below Mason Road there. Yeah, that bridge system there. I'm not sure how that would have made out. Could probably check that out from the road with binoculars, actually. It's fairly close. All right, so nothing on that. Town development. Anything there, Bob, that you've caught wind of that we don't know about at this point?
No, our meeting, PZC was canceled. Loves is still wanting to start construction this summer. They were hoping in May, but that didn't happen. There's still, I guess, a few small loose ends. We did choose a clerk of the works. So that part is in place. And it's just a matter of seeing if the water gets low enough that they can even start with some of their retention basins or such. And, for that wastewater thing, I mean, as we can recall, the groundwater was going to be at least 3 feet in the bottom of that. And this year, I just can't imagine how they would even excavate and then get a liner to stay there to start that construction.
Yeah, I wonder if anyone in that outfit has come to take a look at that and maybe give them pause for maybe what's going to be required for.
It may be,
to keep it
maybe.
in place.
I mean, all the rivers are still running hard. I mean, that little brook that they rechanneled under I-84, it still looks like the Fenton River right now, to be honest.
Wow.
the Mansfield Harbor Dam has only gone down a foot or two since last week.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, collaborative organizations. I haven't received any communications with any of the ones that we normally keep in track of. Anybody else?
The only thing was in the mailbox was the magazine, the Connecticut Wildlife magazines.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we usually get those. Okay, any other old business then?
Pete, I just noticed that I had made some notes to myself that relate to the Talmadge purchase. I've been in the process of looking at the previous agreements of sale, and there were a couple of points that came up that I wondered if we might need to talk with the Board of Finance about for possible inclusion in a purchase and sale agreement that, so I don't know what the Board of Finance has already met in July. So we would probably, if we wanted to discuss some of these things with them, we would have to do it at their August meeting. One of the things that we did, there were the two prior purchases were handled differently in terms of the closing. With the first Talmadge purchase, the transfer of the property actually took place, if Kathy, I believe this is correct, before the actual receipt of funds from the state of Connecticut. Whereas with the more expensive Knowlton parcel, the closing did not take place until after we had actually received the funds. We know that the time is a big issue for the Talmadge estate folks. And so I wondered if a possibility of including an option to close prior to receipt of the state funding should be something we should consider in the agreement for this, or recommend to the selectmen be considered. But that would be, I think, would involve some discussion with the Board of Finance. Just throw that out.
Which would not be able to take place until
Their
August
August
then.
meeting.
And when do we have to have a
No.
purchase and sales done? Kathy?
Well, we have to have it done before we submit the grant, and the grant's due the 30th, and I hope we're not down to the deadline.
Right, so it'd probably be, if we, this was something that actually came up in my, when I met with Erica as well, the possibility of doing this. And since we're in an investment environment, whether the town actually has the funds in hand, whereas with the Talmadge, with the Knowlton property, the town did not have sufficient funds to close on the property without, and then what would happen then when the state grant came in, then the money would be reimbursed into the appropriate account. So I don't know whether this is something, what we would need to do would be, the sequence would be, if we were given an award, that we would try and get the survey and title search done as soon as possible. And once those were done and there were no issues relating to that, then I believe we would be in a position to close. And that might be, since we're sort of the mercy of the state, that might be something that would, that the family would look on with favor.
Kathy, you have?
I was just going to say, when we went with Board of Finance, the only contingency we said is that if a grant was awarded, we didn't say that we had to have the funds in hand to close on the property. I mean, that was never part of what the expectation, or my understanding. Board of Finance, we said to Board of Finance that we recommended this acquisition if we got a grant.
Right.
And, the grant award should come in, 6 to 9 months after we submit the application. We'll know by then. The grant award, the state also wants us to be able to close within 1 year of the grant award. I mean, that's one big issue that they have. They really don't want this going on beyond a year after they say, you know, you're going to get the money. They want you to be able to close within a year after that letter comes to you. So,
Is
I-
this
you know-
something that really needs to be in a purchase and sales agreement?
well, usually you have a timeline in a sales agreement that says when you're going to close by, you know, and that's important for the family to know too. So it's not, you know, open-ended. It could be 10 years before you get your money from the state. You know, I'm not saying it's going to take that long, but yes, I think there has to be a closing, something about when the closing, that's always been in our purchase and sales, you know, it has to be a certain date from, you know, a certain time frame of when you're going to close by. And I think a year, for example, saying in the purchase and sales agreement, saying that the closing will be held within a year of the grant award date is reasonable. I think we'll have more than enough time to get the survey and all the paperwork to the state. But, you know, we need to do the survey at least before we close.
Yeah, but do we need to put in a bit about whether we get the money first in the purchase?
I think that's at least needs to be discussed. Because I don't know the legalities. I did notice there was a difference in the two agreements. The other thing too is in the contingency clause on, I believe on the Knowlton property, gives the town, the buyer, 90 days if we do not receive a grant, gives the buyer 90 days to obtain alternate funding. And I think that might be something to consider putting in there in case we might wish to pursue the matter in the event that we don't receive a grant.
Okay,
So I just this is results of my wading through the documents that applied in those purchases. So just something to consider. But I think particularly if we were going to, if the town were basically going to advance funds in order to facilitate an earlier closing, that would be something that I would think we should be discussing with the Board of Finance before that is proposed as a possible condition of the purchase and sales agreement. That's something I could discuss with Erica, but we won't, given the way the meeting schedule falls, we won't be meeting again, have another regular meeting prior to the Board of Finance's August meeting. So I just wanted to raise
well,
that.
the fact that that's in a purchase and sales, not in the purchase and sales agreement about purchasing before we actually receive the money, that doesn't preclude that happening though. I mean, the Board of Finance may not want to project that far ahead, whether they'll have the money or ability to want to fund it before we get the grant money at this point.
I believe the money's there because they're taking it from the reserve fund. So it's money it's being based on other anticipated revenues, to my knowledge. That's my understanding, that it's in the reserve fund, so it's in place. It's just a question of whether, but I think it would be something that might need discussion with Board of Finance.
Well, I don't
One
know.
other point. One
Yeah.
other point I might just say is with the Talmadge purchase, we went to town meeting before we even submitted the grant, just like we're doing now. So the town votes on whether or not they're going to appropriate all the money for the purchase. And there's nothing in the call of the meeting that says it's contingent upon a grant. So basically, when the town votes on this, they're voting basically to say, yes, we're going to purchase this. The money's already in CIP and it's an open space funds. So, we're saying we can put in the purchase and sales that it's contingent upon getting a grant. But the facts are that basically the residents are voting to put the money in now to make the purchase. Now, I'm just saying that's going to be what it is, that in terms of the vote.
But the expectation from the Board of Finance and the what we have been, the way we have been presenting this to the, to all, in all of our dealings with Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and basically anybody else, is that we were, our intent was to apply for a state grant and to
right.
make the purchase contingent upon, and our dealings with the sellers as well, right? Has been
Right.
that
Yeah,
that
I'm
is
just
going to be
saying,
contingent upon obtaining a grant. So
without stating how much that's going to be, because we don't know.
we don't know. So I guess my question is, should we, I would not want to wait until a mid-September meeting of the Board of Finance to have this kind of discussion. Is this something that we should be pursuing with the selectmen and the Board of Finance, just in at least having some discussion of this with the first selectman as to whether this might be something that should be taken to the Board of Finance about their opinion on how what the provisions are in the purchase and sales agreement.
Well, I don't know. Is this something you want to maybe mention to Erica here without, but we don't want to burden her with too many angles on this whole process.
Well, it did come, the provision to allow for closing prior to actually receiving the state funds was something that did come up in our discussion.
Okay.
So it would be a matter of following up on that. I would be in favor of putting in something that with a clause that it's contingent upon the state grant, that if we don't receive the grant, we have 90 days to see if we can find some alternate way of funding the project or coming up with the necessary funds.
I don't have a problem with you speaking to, the Board of Selectmen or Erica specifically, because she's going to, the Board of Selectmen are going to have to vote to authorize her to prepare and sign the purchase and sales agreement. So,
yeah, that reminds me that I was going to suggest to her that they take that action at their meeting on August 2nd, that they authorize her to work on the agreement so that we can, because we want to be able to include that in the, it's a plus if we can include the sales agreement in our application to the state.
Okay, good. Yeah, why don't you go ahead and do that? That would be,
Okay.
that would
So
be good. Okay. Anything else then? We're under other on old business. Any other old business? I don't have any new business communications. I don't have any. Anyone get any communications? Kathy did.
hi, not communications, but under old business, one other item, the daily award.
Back up. Yep.
When I was looking on the website, I noticed that we haven't updated the daily award list on our website. The last time we list somebody is the Knowltons in 2011. And I believe since that time, Ken Metzler got it in 2017 and Joe Philippi this year. Am I forgetting anybody else?
That sounds right. Yeah, we haven't. I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay. So would you
go
like me?
through our minutes and see what we can find, just in
Well,
case we've forgotten anything.
Well, I have the list. Well, I have the list in Connecticut, but actually I've probably got it in my documents file here on the computer.
Okay, if you want to just get back to me, Pete, I can let somebody at the town office building know maybe to update that list for
Well,
us.
I could do that too. Yeah.
Okay. And one other question, I'm trying to remember, did Mark Drobny make a plaque where we were going to add names to it over time? Did that ever happen, or is it just individual plaques he's made for each recipient?
That was an idea we had.
Okay, but we never came up with that.
followed through on it. And maybe part of it was because we didn't come up with a good place to have it displayed. There is some little daily award thing in selectmen's little conference room, I think, or in the hallway of TOB. But that's, you know, is way out of date in terms of the names, but I think something.
Yeah, I have a vague recollection of something, but I don't know if it's Daily Ward or something else that used to hang in the old town hall that you would pass on your way into to vote for meetings, but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
what
I
happened
I
with
think
that.
maybe we talked about his last two Daily Award plaques were in the shape of the town of Connecticut, the geographic shape in there. And I think we were thinking of ideas of maybe a large one, large plaque of the same format, but much larger, and then with little individual plaques with all the names in it. And we were looking at the library and trying to decide, I think, whether there was a wall there appropriate for displaying that. I'm not sure we came up with one. I think we were also did some exploration of similar kind of stuff that might have been on display at the Mansfield Community Center. I think Carol maybe was looking at some of their displays there to see if we could have something, you know, similar, whatever they had. I don't remember what the results of that was, but yeah, that's another back burner issue. Maybe after we finish this grant thing and move on to another project, you know, no point in having one made up if we don't have a decent place to display it, you know, and where townspeople can see it. But yeah, we should keep that in mind. Okay. Oh yeah, back up. What happened? We somehow the disappearance of the Ruby Trail sign that was mentioned. Where'd we go with it? We didn't, right? Someone stole the whole post. We talking about the post that's at the junction, not the one right at Burma Road, but the one
No,
in.
the one on Burma Road is missing. The one on Burma Road is missing, so I don't know.
The one by the gnarly maple tree.
All right, but there's still one in 50 feet in there where the two trails go. There's supposed to be a Ruby Trail sign there too.
I didn't check that far in. I just noticed when we were on Burma Road, the one, like, you wouldn't know that that's the Ruby Trail right there,
Right.
you know,
Is that where the stainless steel sign was and not in at
I
the,
believe so.
not in at the, where the trail forks? I forgot.
I don't know.
That's not something that would have washed out, right? It was securely, that was pretty securely.
Well, people have stolen the Ruby Trail sign for some reason in the past. I mean, the first one I made in at the junction, the one 50 feet in, there where the trails fork was a routed sign, painted sign, and that got stolen. I think I redid that. And the last I knew that was still there, but there was also one out I made a routed sign out there by, you know, as you go in on the first branch there on Burma Road, and that got stolen. And the last, I didn't replace that, but what I did, I just made a cheap painted one there. Just Ruby Trail, just paint on a piece of plywood there to replace that. But I guess that's gone too.
Wonder what the significance of that particular trail sign name is, seems to be a item of interest to a certain group of people.
Yeah, I don't know why that is.
I can't make any observation on, you know, pop culture that would bring it in line with being a hot item to steal.
I guess we got to change the name of the trail so it's a less popular, you know, title or something more complicated.
Well, the question is, do we need to do something now to indicate where the trail is so that people who go down that way know that's where the trail starts?
Well, until we get all our forces back on boots on the ground in Wellington, there, some of these little things may not, may take a while to get, and people will just have to and say, where's the Conservation Commission? And we'll say, well, we're busy. Would you like to help?
Would you like to join?
Anyway, so, all right, so, well, we take note of that at this point, but I guess.
There's something we
not in
could
a
do
position-
temporarily. Mail
Well,
an arrow to, you know,
somebody could, I can't, but
No.
sorry.
no, I know.
Well, next time Chris and I are home, we'll see what we can think of doing. I'll enlist Chris's aid again.
I can do something if you tell me specifically. Does anybody have a picture of where I could put like red arrow, or I can go do that Friday if you want. I'm out of town tomorrow, and then I'm home all next week. So if you specifically tell me what to do, I could go do that. It takes me 2 minutes to get down there, so.
Well, yeah, it's just about, well, the post is gone there apparently, next to the great big giant, yeah, gnarly.
The gnarly tree.
the gnarly-
Everything gone.
Yeah. So, I
Too
don't
bad
know.
the nap is gone because that's a lot of work on Mark's part.
Yeah, we'll have to pay him to redo another one of those, I guess, at some point. But,
Maybe we should put it on something other than the post that says Ruby Trail. On a separate post or something.
I'm not sure, Nora, what you could do, temporarily there that would be weatherproof. Do you have a thought? It'd have to be, you could put, we've had things laminated in the past from everything, all things printed. They do lamination, but we'd have to, contact them and put something together. But I don't mind, I should be around and available in a couple weeks. And if you think of something that's weatherproof that you want to put there on a board, just paint Ruby Trail and just stick it in the ground.
well, nail it to the big tree there.
Yeah.
I don't know how visible that is. I can't picture whether there's something hanging down in front of it or not, or whether on the big tree or just, or a red arrow on the big maple tree there pointing in to where the Ruby Trail forks in there.
That was what I was thinking, like just a red
Sure.
Yeah.
arrow.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
Or even
I'll
just
check
a
it out on
blaze
Friday.
too, but yeah, would indicate the red trail. All right, always things to patch up here. Communication, any other new business? Next
we want-
meeting,
I
Next.
just want to, well, sorry.
go ahead.
I had just wanted to let the commission know I had, asked Nora if she might be interested in attending our meeting. I explained to her that we are looking for new members. We have 2 alternate positions available, and just, invited her to come if she wanted to see what we do and ask any questions about what other responsibilities the commission has. So, no pressure, but, glad you could join us.
Yes, right. Thank you for coming in, and thank you for whatever you might do to enlighten people about where the Ruby Trail is. But,
That would be great. I just also like to mention that I happen to have be in conversation with Patty Phillips, and she has expressed some interest perhaps in coming back onto the Conservation Commission. She had served on the commission previously, and we do have 2 alternate slots available now. So that we might want to invite Patty to attend the meeting as well.
I did send her out an email this afternoon. I didn't get to it till this afternoon with an agenda, which maybe last minute, maybe she hasn't even gotten to it. But
I'm
yeah,
actually Patty Phillips's daughter.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I got the email. She forwarded the email along to me.
Oh,
Okay. But
great.
she did say, yeah, she enjoyed it, and maybe she would be interested in doing that again. So.
Yep.
Well, I'm glad you joined us, Ally, anyway. That's
Thank you.
good, yeah, and, yeah. Alternate positions are open. Okay, any other comments? So I will stop the Where's the recording? Stop the recording. We're now adjourned. Next meeting is August 18th. Why doesn't the recording quit?